Well, welcome everybody to the post-game lobby. I'm joined by Stress, Amazing, and Cozq from Mysterious Monkeys. As well, we're going to break down everything that happened the last week over in the EU LCS, so right here actually, after Rift Rivals. And we are also going to get a couple of words with the victors of the latest series, which is Fnatic. We'll be waiting for that. But first, I want to speak about that series because a very convincing win in the end for the side of Fnatic when we thought it would be a much more competitive one. Amazing in the end, even in game 2. They just looked much crisper overall. Do you agree with that? And why do you think Vitality wasn't able to do anything?
I think Fnatic was more clear on what they have to do in the game and actually understood their win way better. And I think the way that they orchestrated, especially game 1, was really interesting. That they were able to counter all the mid ganks and were still answering the pressure and getting pressure back on the map. Even though Vitality put up a fight and were actually coming in with game plans, which is something that I was really surprised by because Vitality in general seems to be a team that is really passive almost in comparison. And this series, they really showed a lot of promise, as in their activity levels on the map, their actually playmaking potential and shot calling seem to have been improved. But Fnatic still had the upper hand because every time Vitality made a mistake, Fnatic capitalized on it and just crushed them.
Capitalized on it.
And this is exactly what we needed out of Fnatic. Considering how big everybody was talking about the Fnatic lineup coming into Rift Rivals, I think a good performance against one of the rising teams in the league helps them out significantly now. It basically tells their fans and themselves as players that they can react like this, and partly offsetting a lot of the presence in mid lane that we've seen quite a lot. Caps was camped heavily at Rift Rivals. This time, Broxah was there, helping him out. Caps held his own as well. So a lot of the things that went wrong actually went right today.
With that also, every team that went to Rift Rivals from EU won their series this week, but we're going to talk about that a bit more later. Cozq, player of the series is Caps, and we were looking at Nukeduck versus Caps because in our opinion, Nukeduck, and he still is, he's a great player and he's been doing phenomenally. So why do you think in this series, Caps had the upper hand?
I think because in game 1, he kind of avoided the ganks. He got ganked multiple times and he only died once from all those ganks. And he did well in that. And in the Taliyah game, he played just really well. He had a lot of damage and was exactly there when he had to be and used his ultimate pretty well. So.
Yeah, it will be super important for him as well because Caps in particular was a player who he even sent out that tweet in the middle of Rift Rivals, C9 woken a monster or something like that, but he was never able. Well, I think it's still fine that he does that, right? But I feel like for him, he really wanted to prove something, and this might be a good ego boost again.
And I spoke to him a little bit before Rift Rivals, and he specifically talked about not feeling pressure going into Rift Rivals. So I think along with an ego boost maybe from actually winning this game, I think the experience of what actual international pressure is may very well just grow Caps on a domestic level as well now. If he knows what true pressure is, maybe now this is a good sign for playoff run.
We will see confidence boost for Fnatic overall and closing out the week with a win over Vitality. We're also going to get a word with their AD carry for more on that series.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. I am joined by Reckless here. So let's talk a little bit about Rift Rivals. You just won a series over Vitality, but I think the thing that's most on people's mind, Kennen, pretty consistently in Rift Rivals. Now you're pulling out the new AD carries in this series. What kind of prompted this change for you?
Well, Kennen got nerfed in 7.13, and Rift Rivals was the first official games we had on 7.13, so I was kind of just maybe stuck in the old patch. I'm not sure. We had really good scrim results, so I just thought maybe it's still fine. Maybe the changes didn't affect it too much. But then at Rift Rivals, you could clearly see that it wasn't working out. So in the past week, we've just been trying to not necessarily change everything up, but try a lot of new stuff so that we're more versatile in the future when these kind of tournaments come around. Because if we're playing so many games back to back and we're not able to adapt, we will definitely get punished against good teams.
We did see adaptation coming out today, so I'm curious, looking back at Rift Rivals, was it just the drafts and kind of being stuck in that single play style that was the biggest issue at Rift Rivals, or were there other issues for Fnatic as well?
I think definitely the draft was a big problem, but I wouldn't say the biggest. I think NA's early game was so much better than we've pretty much ever seen before. In EU, at least, there's nothing that comes close to it. So especially with the style we were playing, or the style we are playing, we just have a really tough time dealing with these kind of early games. We just fall too far behind, and I never really get going on my split push AD carry thingy. And that's why we made some of the changes going into this week, because we just felt if someone were to pull out this early game again and I don't get going, we don't really have any cards to fall back on. Meanwhile, now we maybe have more as I said before, a versatile playstyle, so we're able to maybe fall back on Soas or Caps if something goes wrong on bot. And I have better scaling as well on something like Varus and Sivir, so for sure, we learned a lot from Rift Rivals, but it kind of sucked that it happened in such a fashion and that we kind of like lost all of our hype maybe with it. But like we'll definitely keep working the way we did before, and we'll try to win Europe same as we did before. Yeah.
Definitely on the path to building some of that hype back up with some pretty solid wins over Vitality today. Now, looking forward for Fnatic, improving some of those individual things, improving that flexibility looks good for you guys, but what are the immediate goals outside of kind of learning to deal with that aggressive early game that you saw from those North American teams?
Well, as I said, I think the biggest thing we're working on right now is that we're not so reliant on me doing my thing that I did before. And we're much more like able to adapt in the game as well, because some games like at Rift Rivals, they were just having so much jungle pressure on bot, and I wasn't able to like pressure the lane at all or do my cannon things in the lane. So yeah, we just had nothing to fall back on, and now we've been trying to like be more like broad as a team and able to play around pretty much every lane, every player, and like maybe in Spring Split it didn't work out, but now I think it will, because everyone has improved so much and we're so much better now as a team. So like for sure it's going to be much better now, and as you could see here, like there were some good signs, especially in game one.
Yeah, definitely saw some fantastic plays across the team. Early aggression from North America seems to be a consistent thing that kind of trumped Europe out across Rift Rivals. How do you practice and prepare for that when it's the European teams that weren't able to match that aggression? Where do you find that practice here in EU? Is that something that teams are now looking to improve, or is that something that you have to find a way to kind of emulate?
I think it's hard to practice, but most of it is theoretical anyways. Like we just have to talk about jungle paths and how much pressure each lane has and what they can do with it, because at Rift Rivals we kind of got caught off guard. Like if you saw the first C9 game, like their support was just roaming mid at level 2 or something, killing caps behind his tower, and like that's something we've never seen before. Like usually if the enemy team gets pressure bot or something, they just try to snowball it into a CS lead or tower damage. But in this case, they just didn't care at all about the laning phase and just started going towards mid. And yeah, like there were a lot of new things to learn. And as I said, we were just not adapting over the days. Like we were playing 3 days back to back, and we weren't able to adapt at all between the days. So it's kind of a shame, and maybe even a good learning experience, because Worlds is going to be a similar like schedule. So if we're able to learn that we need to adapt, maybe even like in the middle of the tournament, then that will be a like good step towards Worlds if we make it.
Showing some of that week-to-week adaptation here, maybe day-to-day adaptation in the future when the world stage is present. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. That's going to do it for us here. We're going to send things back to Sjokz in the post-game lobby.
That's Reckless next to.
Well, Fnatic, G2, and Unicorns of Love, they represented EU in the Rift Rivals, but they failed to pick up the trophy in a tournament that was dominated by the LCS teams. And in the post-game interview that Reckless gave after Fnatic's victory over Vitality, he spoke to the fact that the EU teams in general, and especially Fnatic, weren't able to adapt as the tournament went on. And I kind of want to take a look at the stats that we had at the end of the group stage of Rift Rivals that signify the differences between NA and EU, because they were damning. Obviously, the wins. The early game is something we see referenced over and over and over, how EU teams weren't able to get an early game lead, and more importantly, how North America was so efficient at snowballing their early game leads. And with that, of course, great objective control.
Great objective control, a lot through empowering junglers in the early game. And Maurice, this is something you're on the analyst desk for Rift Rivals. Is there a difference you see now this week of people actually playing through their jungler early game? I mean, we've looked at Fnatic with a slightly different play style as well.
I think more teams are actually thinking about the ward coverage that they have to put out and just the pressure they have to put on the map at specific times. That it's like a lot of the schemes that are that any teams have been running, as in like, you know, they exactly know when to put what coverage, where to put it, and how to pressure, is something that you learn by practice, and you actually like keep repeating that and everything like that. So EU teams probably copy that now and actually have been more adamant about getting the ward coverage at the right times. We saw even in the Vitality game that Vitality had 2 ping birds on both side lanes, on both sides of mid, and basically were able to roam off of mid or roam into mid at any point. So yeah, like we've definitely seen improvement, and I think EU is more into playing into schemes now too, and I appreciate that a lot, because it gives you a stronger base to work off for later stages of the game.
And specifically about Fnatic, I mean, we're seeing a lot of this vision control around the mid lane, and Fnatic have been playing more around mid lane. This is a team that only ever went to the side lane on a Kennen or a Tristana during Rift Rivals. Now Fnatic picking Sivir, picking Varus, and just going, okay, Reckless, you've done this in seasons gone by, sit mid, we'll try and start fights in mid and actually get objective control. So it's a drastic shift for Fnatic that worked out very well
So
today.
It's kind of a combination from adapting to the meta and playing different champions, even though Sivir is not particularly in meta, but apparently also also not bad, but because of the pick, you have to sit mid because you just can't 1v1 someone in the side lane.
Sivir, anytime you need a scaling AD carry, is still going to be just as successful with a couple of buffs to the attack speed items. She's also decent, okay? I don't think any team is going to first pick Sivir or highly prioritize, but I like seeing people trying to play different AD carries like Fnatic. They're always a little oddball.
Yeah, definitely in terms of mid lane priority, we just saw that there was a lot of that during Rift Rivals, and we see more and more of it. Cozq, we saw G2 back there played versus Splice, and Perkz went absolutely off. He did get some help from the jungler, as always, but he just seemed to leverage his advantage more than he had. Do you feel like he looked different than he did at Rift Rivals?
I think they look stronger, yeah, for sure. Also, but I think also, yeah, he was like playing mechanically better than the enemies. And he got a lot of, their vision was better, so you could get a lot of free, especially the LeBlanc game. He got a lot of free kills off because they had a vision and he could just one-shot everyone. Yeah, so I think, better than Rift Rivals, how it went there.
Yeah, that wasn't difficult. Of course, we see the stats there, 12, 25, and 20 at Rift Rivals, and absolutely killing it on LeBlanc specifically versus Splice.
That's something I've been advocating now for a few weeks with this G2 slump. They remembered LeBlanc exists as a champion. They'll play more Syndra. They'll play more of these early game champions, and that's where Perkz looked the best. Sure, he can play Orianna, he can play the Corki, but empower him early on, he will carry through a game, and then if you need Sven in the late game, we'll always know he's reliable.
It is kind of hard to say from those games, though, when your mid laner snowballs so hard and can carry on his own. It's kind of hard to say where the macro improved, but amazing. We were talking during the show a lot about G2 and the fact that you feel that in terms of 1-4, they've always been good. They've just never had European teams that are as good as they are, but NA teams are better.
Yeah, basically what happened in Rift Rivals is that EU teams got the reminder that 1-4 is actually a playstyle that exists, and G2 was always advocating that playstyle, and due to them having no enemies in Europe actually playing that style, they had no chance of practicing. So if you run 1-4 against 1-3-1, the thing that's going to happen every time is that at some point you're going to outscale and then you win team fights. But against 1-4 versus 1-4, you have to be way more crisp on the ward timings, you have to be way more crisp on the rotation times, and you will probably lose a lot of team fights in scrims because you underestimate the opponents or you overestimate your own damage. So other teams actually picking up the style right now in Europe gives them the opportunity to basically better themselves and actually have opponents to practice against and then bring that towards Worlds.
And not only that, we've seen if it's difficult to do, to set up the warding that you're talking about, Tahm Kench is 1-4, basically painting by numbers. Every time this champion has ultimate, he goes on whoever's the one, and you just start the fight. If it's a 1-3-1, you can just start the fight mid lane and just kill everybody. Seen it this week, expecting more teams to pick it up.
Well, you talk about that, about the 1-4, or just all playing on the mid lane. The Unicorns of Love is a team that we haven't touched on yet, and I didn't feel like there was that much of a difference in the way they played this week. But amazing, you were also mentioning that you felt like they played more controlled. I have a hard time seeing it just because it still came down to a lot of hard team fights in their matches. So what makes you say that?
What made me say that is that I think they kind of like shut down a lot of opponents within the early game, as in like they actually were crisper during that time. They had more ward coverage on mid lane. They allowed Exile to actually not die 15 times. So like, just the early game was crisper, but then when like the game becomes more random and you actually have to do way more individual decisions, like or in the moment shot calling, is when Unicorn still struggled. And I don't think that is necessarily going to change too fast, but I do think that them having like Sjokz actually playing early game champions in comparison to his late game scaling champions that he usually prefers is a good sign for them, because Sjokz is extremely good. Like, I'm actually surprised by the things that he does in scrims, and his jungle pathing is extremely crisp. But due to the fact that he has a love or whatever it is for those late game scaling champions, he doesn't really get anything out of it. So that means his early game strength is wasted. So I like that they put him on a list this week, and I hope to see more.
Well, it was nice to see that. Obviously, Exile was a player that we were looking at, Cozq, because he's had a couple of struggles this split. He has died a lot. So do you think it is just better from the Unicorns of Love that they put Sjokz now on in a list that can actually pressure some of the ganks or counter gank him? Will that enable him to do more in the game?
I think so. I think he will, of course, die less than he did in Rift Rivals. Yeah, that's for sure. And he will be able to play more aggressive if he play aggressive champions. And he will be able to rotate more or something, because if Gragas, for example, if they play like scaling late game champs who don't have any aerial pressure, he can't really do much. He cannot rotate with his jungler or fight with his jungler if the enemies are stronger. So yeah, maybe we'll see improvement in that.
We've already started to see a little improvement. He actually is now down to, on average, 2/3 of a death per game in his series this week, down from 2 in the Rift Rivals group stage. One thing for me that is a problem still for the Unicorns, they live and die by individual errors, and that has to be cleaned up. This week it wasn't Exile, it was Chachi.
It was Chachi.
That's surprising, but they cannot have one person dropping the ball every week, otherwise it's never going to come together.
Well, we'll see how it evolves. Maybe short stress. All the teams that went to Rift Rivals and that we were disappointed with, they beat good teams, well, good teams that were just below them or around them in the standings, because G2 was obviously 3rd coming into the week, but they were able to beat out Splice that had looked good beforehand. Misfits weren't able to win versus Unicorns of Love. Fnatic pretty much crushed Vitality, so what does that tell us?
I think it tells us there were learnings that come from Rift Rivals. I still maintain that if they'd played the same style coming in, they probably still would have won just at how strong the teams are. But I think just the fact that they have learned is a good sign for the likes of G2 and Fnatic specifically.
All right, well, we'll see how everything evolves and what our Rift Rivals teams can do as they continue their fight for a spot in the playoffs with a lot left to play out here in the summer split. And for us, well, I keep thinking about Rift Rivals. Are we too fixated now on everything that happened at Rift Rivals with those teams, and should we focus more on the own game of the teams, or is it to find a balance amazing? If you were in one of those teams, how would you react to what happened?
I mean, first off, I would have been embarrassed because I hate losing. But second off, it's just, like at that point, you just have to acknowledge that your playstyle is not as good as it should be, and it's not working on an international stage. So if your team like Fnatic, G2, and like Unicorn, like I think actually more G2 and Fnatic, where they have been to Worlds a lot of the times and they have had this international success, that they look more towards it now. And I think them fixating on it is good, but I think we as viewers should still like kind of appreciate what the EU teams actually do and what kind of things they run for themselves and what kind of ideas they have, because EU is really risky in their playstyle and the things that they innovate. So I respect a lot of the teams a lot. I respect the innovation, especially Unicorns. So just like giving them a fair shot and just acknowledging what they can actually do on the Rift is something we should do more and not fixate too much.
I'm kind of interested now with specifically Mysterious Monkeys, you know, Cozq. You're a player that plays things that are a little different. You see the Katarina come through, the Cassiopeia. Speaking of Rift Rivals and what we learned about the early game, is that something you look at and you say, okay, I need to address this too? I may not have been there, but it's my region's style. Or do you kind of just keep playing your own game?
Honestly, I haven't. We were scrimming a lot, so I haven't honestly watched a lot of Rift Rivals games. But I think like the champions that they play there and how they play is just also like they're way better in communication, you know, than probably like the new teams. So they have like, yeah, they're just better in communication, so they know how to set up things better and stuff like that. Yeah, and of course we kind of have to learn from that, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting though when you talk about the Mysterious Monkeys, because I was asking myself this question when you see Kikis coming in, obviously with cool champions, interesting champions, but it doesn't seem to me that a team that is building up, that is learning, when you throw in a Kali in the mix, it's very specific skill set, obviously very coordinated in team fights and in the split pushing. Is that making it a bit more difficult for yourselves, or how do you see kind of that in the context of the team?
I think Akali was actually fine, but it's just like the way how we executed again, like it's because we were kind of winning the game, but then how we executed team fights and our planning and stuff and how we set up stuff is just way worse than like experienced teams. So I think it could have worked out, but I don't think it's always have to be by the meta, you know. I think you can also go off and make things work, like Unicorns, for example. So yeah.
Sure, amazing.
I mean, I think the game itself, like I think the Akali pick and especially like playing against, as he already said, against better teams or more experienced teams or more established teams, like as an underdog, you can have to throw in a couple of curveballs. So actually like going by the meta makes the enemies already be prepared for you. So like throwing in the Akali, throwing in like whatever Aatrox we had at some point, and the Mordekaiser, these kind of things. Yeah, like while they may not seem that great in the moment, like making the enemies rethink the game and actually having to like rethink the priorities within the early game is really good for underdogs. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we have more of that coming in, maybe from other roads, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan, and it seems to be working out for you guys because you're picking up more and more wins.
And it makes it difficult, as you said, for them to ban out against you.
Yeah.
I mean, Kikis, all he had to do was play like 2 or 3 games of Yasuo and solo queue in preparation for Faxi's Nara, and then they ban it out. I kind of want to talk Cozq, and I don't want to open any kind of wound or anything, but after you guys qualified,
Yeah.
a lot of the on-air story was that you personally have been trying to qualify for so long, and now you're here.
You're old.
I just want to ask you how you feel right now on the growth of improvement as you as a player, as an LCS mid laner now. Like, are you where you want to be? Is there any growth that you are kind of waiting still to see?
I would say not exactly, because the thing is, when we qualified for the LCS and we weren't with this lineup, we had another lineup, you know, so it was like how we were playing stuff was kind of straightforward and wasn't with people knew from other people what they had to do, you know, it was like kind of synergized, like people knew what other people were gonna do, so we didn't have to communicate as much and when we were like diving and stuff like now. But if you play with like new members and stuff, and like they don't expect the same thing from what you expect from them, you kind of have to communicate stuff, and then stuff are going like really wrong, you know. So kind of that's kind of have to build up, but I think it's going better since the last few weeks, especially also with champion pools and that kind of stuff. And it's gonna get it's getting better every week right now after the changes.
After the change as well, it looks to be going on the up and up. Before we move on to the standings, I do want to put a spotlight on one other team, and that is H2K. They went up against Roccat, and they absolutely demolished them. There's no other way to put it, and that was kind of hopeful for me to see because H2K was obviously one of those top teams that was at the top of Group B before Rift Rivals didn't go to Rift Rivals, and we were looking at to make a statement. So is H2K the best team in Europe right now?
Oh, not this again. Oh, no sweeping statements 1 week back. Well, 23-minute average game time in this series tells you that they are significantly better than Roccat, as you were talking about. And I think we really have to wait to see H2K going up against the likes of Fnatic, G2, and back into group play against the Unicorns, because that realistically is going to tell us where they're at.
Yeah, I mean, just
You just agree? Okay, cool. We're just going to jump in. Let's take a look at the standings. H2K obviously at the top there still, but Unicorns of Love also picked up a couple of wins. And then it's getting interesting because Vitality now dropped that match. Mysterious Monkeys are hot on their heels. What do we realistically think is possible for the Monkeys?
I mean, realistically
we need to win some more.
Yeah.
We need to win more. Like, but I think that the 4th place is within reach. I'm not even sure if Vitality is going to be ending up on the 4th place. I think they may actually, like, they're actually good enough to be on the 3rd right now. Like, I actually think they're really good.
That's what I keep hearing. I mean, that's what we heard even before Rift Rivals from a lot of people.
Like, their 1-4 is just incredible because, like, Amado has always been good at establishing, like, this base for them and for other teams too. And, like, the rotations that they do are really crisp and they just fought against way better teams. You know, Fnatic is no shame to lose to. But yeah, for us, 4th place, ideally 3rd place. I don't think we can go higher than that.
Well, this is only your first split in this configuration, so we'll be tracking that. And we speak about Vitality a lot. And, well, one player is very influential in that lineup. And over the first 6 weeks, we've been naming our player of the series for each matchup. And let's check out some of the individuals that have impressed us so far this split. No big surprises there. Nukeduck, well, for the first place at least, for as much as I heard people speak about Nukeduck. Power of Evil, Samux, and 7 players. I didn't know that nickname. But, well, at least I got some laughs. So what do we think their Power of Evil, for me, has been an absolute standout player in Misfits, even with their struggles. So I think that is correct there. And Samux is the most consistent player of the Unicorns of Love. So is there anyone you're missing in the top 3?
I didn't play enough games.
Well, you had one today, so that is one.
I think, so I don't want to take away from you. I voted for Kikis today on Player of the Series because I think, and the reason why is he is such a drastic impact in every single game you guys play. The enemy have to respect it. So I think with more wins for Mysterious Monkeys, we'll see a Kikis creep up that leaderboard. But I'm just happy to see that you guys are actually successful with the play style that you're going, because it's exciting to watch.
Thaddeus voted for Amazing. You voted for Kikis. I voted for Dreams. Someone else voted for Yuki. So
everybody voted for it.
No one voted for me.
Fortunately, no one voted for it. No, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. Well, with that, we have good players, but we've also seen a lot of good plays and good candidates for LCS Big Plays of the Week. And it's time to check out the very best. Here are your favorites brought to you by Acer. First up, the Norwegian Bombardier Nukeduck got a pentakill as Corky in Vitality Series against Roccat. And G2's mid laner Perks now has a new challenger for his lane kingdom.
Vitality looking to push. This is the composition difference with running this Galio. It can be
good. It can work out. But now Spraddle said Vitality, they want to keep going.
Yeah, looking for Sjokz right now. He goes invis, and even Prophet's taking it up, and Nukeduck flashing forward for the double kill. Forget the base, we're going for the ace, but Prophet hops in. He gets one kill off. That's a triple for Nukeduck. Looking for the quadra. Can he go for it all? Looking for that penta on Nagne, and he does it. A penta kill for Nukeduck.
Penta. Still it.
Nothing brings a team together like a pentakill. Obviously, Cozq so strong right now, so Nukeduck is great, but Cozq, you also were saying during the previous game, like Cozq is just intense now, and so...
I think he doesn't have many bad matchups, just that Casio can kind of pressure him, and Orianna a bit too, like it's hard to lane, but for the rest I don't think he has really bad matchup, and he skills really, really well and does a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And it's not the hardest champs to play, I think.
No, not in, I mean,
I'm just saying that he has a lot of damage and a really short. He has a lot of DPS, damage per minute, a lot.
Yeah, and getting a pentakill is still difficult, no matter what champion you're on.
Yeah,
especially when your team like steal it.
Yeah, they're all turning into pigeons at that point.
We'll see. Nukeduck challenging Perkz for that lane kingdom, but Perkz, however, he also showed his skills when he made a great outplay as LeBlanc versus Splice at XFanlex tweeted, "Damn, Perkz, they have families."
Copy's on the back end, and Perkz fancies himself a shot. He takes the magical journey as well. Copy's low, Sjokz is low. A threaded volley runs out of ammunition as Sjokz gets chunked down. The seismic shove is not going to find anybody on the pebbles.
Oh, that's a lot of juicy targets for Perkz to clean up.
Oh, distortion forward. Shatter orb, not going to be able to be procced. Where's the chain? Trashy's under the tower. One shot. The illusionist. Double kill. There's the Perkz that we all know and love.
What the fuck?
What?
What's up? I think we have to... That was my bad.
Hey, it's post-game lobby, no censorship. He just said, I'm not going to repeat it. But yeah, that was pretty good from Perkz. Why are you still
Maurice
laughing?
is dying over here.
Yeah, I mean, his expression says everything. He walks back in, gives Perkz another kill, and he's like, what is he doing, you know?
Yeah, LeBlanc was pretty fed, and she was much more fed after that. So next play, Friday was Bastille Day in France, and Vizicachi, he picked up the Grand Duelist Fiora for the occasion. Turns out Misfits Gaming's Ignar was not a worthy opponent.
Nice escape from Vizicachi in the end. Meanwhile, bot lane, Unicorns, they're still pushing. They have no reason to back away at the moment. Right, Ignar, what is he doing? Dun. Yeah, that's an ignite. Oh, the healing coming in, Vizicachi! Oh!
Holy shit, man. Vizicachi.
Yeah, that's an ignite. Oh, the healing coming in, Vizicachi! Oh! Oh my god, outplayed! Outplayed! Whoa! Don't try that at home!
Oh, I could look at the caster's reactions to stuff like that all day. That was hilarious. I tried to do the opponent with a French accent. It didn't work. It was a British accent. Can you?
Where's the opponent?
Yeah,
no, that was better, but still terrible.
That was so much better than mine. We'll have to do better.
Do you speak French?
Well, that's maybe why I can't fake the accent. I don't know. Je ne sais pas. In any case, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for joining us, you guys. Actually, it's not time to sign off yet. First, we're going to look at the schedule, because we'll be back for more action in the summer split next week. And we're going to kick things off with a top-tier fight between H2K and G2. And this is the end of the cross-group play, the last one. So G2 versus H2K. Misfits versus the Monkeys might be a very interesting one as well.
Fnatic.
Yes,
Always crazy series.
So at the end of cross-group play is going to prove to be very, very interesting. What do you think of your opponents for that week? Misfits? Beatable?
I think they're pretty beatable. Like, they have a lot of issues, and I don't know what the thought process is, but like, they have players that can only play early game, and then they keep picking like keep getting outscaled like really hard. You know, the comps that they play are almost too hard to execute, and they are not straightforward. They don't just snowball into oblivion. You know, so I reckon that they may change up something, but I think they're still pretty beatable for us.
All right, we will see. Does G2 beat H2K?
Ooh.
Yes.
Yes?
Wow, okay.
I want to see that.
You want to see that? I say no. G2 are better, but I say no.
Okay, well, we're out of time, so I'll ask you about that next week. Thank you, guys. This time I was a bit quick on the trigger before, but for joining us tonight, Cozq, Amazing, and Stress. It is time for us to call it a night from Berlin. Thank you guys very much for watching, and join us back here next Thursday for week 7 already of the summer split. Have a great night. Cheers.
This top lane Amazing's coming through now. Chain CC goes in, knocked back. Foxy now in trouble, already burned the flash. Goodbye. That is going to be first blood for Mysterious Monkeys. Dreams goes in again for some reason. Foxy knocks the team back. What an ultimate. Rockcat now poised to take the fight. No hopes left.
Jindo flash, Jindo flash, Jindo flash, Jindo flash. Kill Nada, kill Nada. End the game, end the game.
That is going to be the game 1 win for the Mysterious Monkeys.
Nice.
Nice. I stack Kalista. Nice.
Yeah, nice. It is simply not enough. Betsy, is he going to turn back? No chance to use the hill. Rockcat, the gold lead means nothing when Mysterious Monkeys just outplay you.
Ow! Ow! We have GA with Nar. Nice.
It's a grenade. Oh my God, Jordan! Whoa!
Let's go, Nash.
Rockcat managed to pull it back. It's messy once again, but they are going to get the win, and that is all that matters.
Stun goes in. Now they're taking tower aggro. Going to try to dash out. Is going to make it to safety. Said that.
Oh, amazing! What?
Oh, my bad.
Mysterious Monkeys are hungry for blood, and they're moving for a little bit more. Wadiq gets taken down. The Lantern to save the day, but Amazing still going to drop. Cozq, they're going to take down the inhibitor. They win the fight as well.
Good shit.
No more back and forth, they say. No more mid-game fights. We're going to close it out. Mysterious Monkeys.
Oh no, they step right back into it, and Soaz says, get in the pit, everybody. Glacial Prison opened up. So is the curtain call, but it's a little too late as Reckless picks up one, and Caps blows up Nukeduck. Now they're going to turn the fight on with the Baron picked up. They melt through Cabochard. Nukeduck trying to make a play, but he's not going to be able to get anything done.
Nice. I'm going top.
Trick, but he's not taking as good as he's getting there. Soaz moving forward as they try to get steal back, but he's flashed away. Reckless manages to finish Hofbander, and Vitality are scattered to the winds. 16 kills to 1. Game 1 in the books. Fnatic are back.
Nice. Good job. Okay, arrow. Holy shit. Get dragon. Nice. Get them all. Holy fake.
Caps is going to take out Steelback. Vander gets popped back on. The double kill, the triple kill. And now it's Caps who's coming up with kill number 1. Cabochard limping, but Broxa is not going to let him off that easily. And Steelback up against the wall. You can teach old kings some new tricks.